One of the Kryptonics stories that I just found out about working on this project was did an interview with Jim Ford and kind of asked him about the how Kryptonics came about, and he was actually a factory grunt working at Kryptonics, and he was trying to get them to make skateboard wheels, and they just didn't think it was a viable thing to do. And eventually Jim got one of the machinists there to make him a mold, and then him and his buddy figured out a way to keep the doors from locking at night, and they would sneak into the factory at night and pour their own wheels and test them.
I had a friend working at Kryptonics that worked in the machine shop, and we decided that we could make a wheel. You start by making a steel master, it's called, and then you pour urethane around it to make a mold, and then you pour urethane back in it to make the wheel itself. So I designed a wheel. It's probably designed more along the lines of what back then was a wheel I was using called a power pawl, and it had a big lip on it, and that's where we started, and we made a mold with that. And because there was no official business with skateboard wheels at the time with Kryptonics, we put a little bit, I think it was a matchbook cover or something like that, in the door when we left work and came back in the evening. No criminal intent or anything like that, just a passion for what we were doing. So we just started pouring different formulas that we could mix up in the lab in small batches into these molds. We'd make 4 wheels in a night and get out of there, and then the next day try them out. And that, it probably went on for a couple months. I don't really remember how long it was until we came upon the holy grail of wheels at the time. The
way they tested them was they had 3 other boards set up with, I think, one with Road Riders, one with OJs, one with Power Paws. And they knew if they took one push, they could go like halfway across a parking lot or something.
On the first roll of the wheels that really defined Kryptonics they came out kind of a milky white color, and they were really soft. And we were worried because we didn't have any inserts for bearings at the time. It's just the structure of the wheel itself held the bearings. So I was really worried the wheel would just peel right off of the bearings because it was so soft. But we put it on anyway, and where we tried it was the back parking lot at Kryptonics, which was totally flat. And the wheels that we used up until that time, I mean, the normal wheels that were on the market, like Road Riders or whatever they were, you push off and maybe go 20 or 30 feet or something like that. You'd have to push again. And these wheels we pushed off once and went all the way across the parking lot, out into the cul-de-sac next to the parking lot, and almost out to the main street. So you could tell immediately that it was, like nothing that was on the market. I mean, it just was amazing.
It was one of those moments like, inventing the telephone or something. It's like, what have we done?
We just went along the shelf and looked at a formula and said, okay, you mix part A and part B, and this. So there was no science to it. It was all dumb luck.
It's just something about that compound. It just smoothed the ride out, and the grip was phenomenal, which would take the skaters faster, and back in those days, even higher than what was happening prior.
When I first got on Kryptonics wheels, riding them, I was on Gordon and Smith team, who was mass producing their boards and their wheels, yo-yo wheels and some other GNS wheels and wonkers and stuff. Their urethanes were pretty decent. At the time, technology was just doubling overnight. It was just ramping up so quickly. Gordon and Smith, I think what they did is opted to do large production runs and stick with the technology that they had at the time. Unfortunately for us, who loved technology and all the new stuff coming out that was so fast and better grip, larger size wheels, we tried it out. And even though I was on the Gordon Smith team at the time, I got on Kryptonics wheels, and that's it. I had to have them.
Everybody was riding them. Everybody. Yeah, they created quite a sensation right off the bat.
When I got them on my board, it was like the magic carpet ride. Just sailed. It was great.
My first set were the huge red ones, and I ended up putting those on. I rode for Gordon and Smith at the time, so I put those on. I think it was a Stacy Peralta Warp Tail 2, or no, it was a Warp Tail 1, and it was like a 32-inch, which was like a longboard back then, because most of us were riding like 29, 30, or 31-inch boards. So this 32-inch was a big board, and I put those big red Kryptonics on it. It was killer. It was like my board for the high jump, the long jump, big bowls, downhill stuff, and I freaking loved those wheels.